Does it trouble you?
Not really.
What's important is that your mark is now stable, as is the breach. You've given us time, and Solas believes a second attempt might succeed, provided the mark has more power. The same level of power used to open the breach in the first place. That is not easy to come by.
What harm could there be in powering up something we barely understand?
Hold on to that sense of humor. You've met Commander Cullen, leader of the Inquisition's forces.
It was only for a moment on the field. I'm pleased you survived.
This is Lady Josephine Montelier, our ambassador and chief diplomat.
I've heard much. It's a pleasure to meet you at last.
And of course, you know Sister Liliana.
My position here involves a degree of...
She is our spy master.
Yes, tactfully put, Cassandra.
That's an impressive bunch of titles.
I mentioned that your mark needs more power to close the breach for good.
Which means we must approach the rebel mages for help.
And I still disagree. The Templars could serve just as well.
We need power, Commander. Enough magic poured into that mark.
Might destroy us all. Templars could suppress the breach, weaken it, so...
Pure speculation.
I was a Templar. I know what they're capable of.
Unfortunately, neither group will even speak to us yet. The Chantry has denounced the Inquisition, and you specifically.
That didn't take long.
Shouldn't they be busy arguing over who's going to become divine?
Some are calling you, a dwarf, the Herald of Andraste. That frightens the Chantry. The remaining clerics have declared it blasphemy, and we, heretics, for harboring you.
Chancellor Roderick's doing, no doubt.
It limits our options. Approaching the mages or Templars for help is currently out of the question.
So if I wasn't with the Inquisition...
Well, let's be honest, they would have censored us no matter what.
And you not being here isn't an option.
There is something you can do. A Chantry cleric by the name of Mother Giselle has asked to speak to you. She is not far, and knows those involved far better than I. Her assistance could be invaluable.
Why would someone from the Chantry help a declared heretic?
I understand she's a reasonable sort. Perhaps she does not agree with her sisters. You will find Mother Giselle tending to the wounded in the hinterlands near Redcliffe.
Look for other opportunities to expand the Inquisition's influence while you're there.
We need agents to extend our reach beyond this valley, and you're better suited than anyone to recruit them.
In the meantime, let's think of other options. I won't leave this all to the Herald.
The Inquisition cannot remain, Ambassador, if you can't prove it was founded on Justinia's orders.
This is an inopportune time, Marquis. More of the faithful flock here each day. But allow me to introduce you to the brave soul who risked her life to slow the magic of the breach. Mistress Kadash, this is the Marquis d'Aurelion, one of Divine Justinia's greatest supporters.
And the rightful owner of Haven. House d'Aurelion lent Justinia these lands for pilgrimage. This Inquisition is not a beneficiary of this arrangement.
Interesting, considering the Inquisition was begun by the left and right hands of the Divine.
I've seen no written records from Sister Liliana or Seeker Pentacus that Justinia approved the Inquisition.
If you won't take her at her word, I'm afraid Seeker Pentagast must challenge him to a duel.
What?
It is a matter of honor among the Navarans. Shall I arrange the bout for tonight?
No. No. Perhaps my reaction to the Inquisition's presence was somewhat hasty.
We face a dark time, Your Grace. Divine Justinia would not want her passing to divide us. She would, in fact, trust us to forge new alliances to the benefit of all, no matter how strange they might seem.
I'll think on it, Lady Montelier. The Inquisition might stay in the meanwhile.
I'm so pleased the Marquis isn't tossing us out into the cold.
His Grace is only the first of many dignitaries we must contend with.
You expect more people in Haven?
Undoubtedly. And each visitor will spread the story of the Inquisition after they depart. An ambassador should ensure the tale is as complimentary as possible.
I'm glad for your help. I have a feeling the Inquisition's going to need it.
I do believe you are correct. Thedas's politics have become agitated as of late. I hope to guide us down smoother paths. But please excuse me. I've much work to do before the day is done. Greetings.
What business are the Montiliers in, exactly?
We began as merchants. My ancestors founded the first trade routes to Rivain. We once sent entire fleets across the Waking Sea.
But not anymore?
No. These days, our vessels are a touch more modest.
What did you do before coming here?
I had the great honor of serving Antiva's crown as ambassador to Orlais. I'm also first in line to become the head of House Montilier, though my siblings attend to our mercantile affairs.
How strong are your past loyalties?
I would never have given up my position if I did not intend to fully commit to the Inquisition. We cannot fall back on borders. Antiva is as threatened as any country by the rebellions. If anything, the alliances I forged there may help our current cause.
Do you think the Inquisition will continue after we seal the breach?
If we prove ourselves by healing the breach, people may turn to us for other things. Protection, counsel, justice. The Inquisition offered these once to those in need.
Tell me, do you believe I was saved by Andraste at the Temple of Sacred Ashes?
I should much like to believe so, Your Worship. The miracles Andraste performed were so long ago, they're difficult to picture. If it were truly her and the Fate who saved you... Well, in any case, many already believe you walk in the Maker's light.
Let's speak later.
Farewell. That can't be it. Perhaps Leliana was... No, that seems unlikely. How can... Oh, hello, Mistress Kadash.
Something on your mind, Ambassador?
You could say that. I was speaking with Leliana and... Well, we discussed how to make people understand that a dwarf could be a herald of Andraste.
Tell them stranger things have happened. The Maker moves in mysterious ways and all that.
Yes, he certainly does. Leliana was telling me rumors that... it sounds preposterous, but... There are stories circulating that you were part of a criminal organization. The Dwarven Carta.
I was hoping that secret would keep a little longer.
You mean... Well, this complicates things. Were you only smuggling at least? Exchanging a few goods on the surface?
What makes you think I've never been to Orzammar?
I thought you were without a caste. It was my understanding that dwarves born on the surface are casteless and barred from Orzammar.
Only officially. I've been to Orzammar hundreds of times. The Carta knows how to ask people to look the other way.
Yes, about that. I do need to know the extent of your involvement in the Carta's activities.
I was the buyer for fancy surface goods we sold to rich dwarven houses. Long hours, but peaceful compared to most Carta work.
That is a relief. Perhaps we can make your former occupation sound... less unsavory. I'll handle the subject of your past carefully, Herald. I'm sure you can't miss that life.
You're not interested in a dashing dwarven rogue who lived at the edge of the law?
A dashing rogue?
What?
We can't quash rumors you were with the Carta, but if a more interesting one comes along... Thank you for the talk. I must ask Varric to draft something. I've made some inquiries into the Imperial Court. The sooner we deal with the threats to the Empress, the better. The political situation in the Empire is dangerously unstable. It will complicate matters.
Everything in the Empire complicates matters. It's the Orlesian national pastime.
Turn your nose up at the grand game if you like, Commander, but we play for the highest stakes, and to the death.
The Court's disapproval can be as great a threat as the Venatori. We must be vigilant to avert disaster.
Exactly what do you mean? How is it more dangerous than usual?
The Empress is in the middle of a civil war. Her cousin, Grand Duke Gaspard, seeks to take her throne by force. Leliana reports that a group of elves has been sabotaging both armies, drawing out the hostilities. Orlais holds Tevinter at bay. All of Thedas could be lost if the Empire falls to Corypheus. Celine is holding peace talks under the auspices of a grand masquerade. Every power in Orlais will be there. It's the perfect place for an assassin to hide.
A grand masquerade? I need to go shopping.
We don't have enough sway with the court to arrange an invitation. Perhaps a few more alliances.
Or soldiers.
We need a greater presence in Orlais. And soon. Inquisitor, I was just inspecting our new headquarters. Foundation cracks, nesting animals, and miles from any centers of civilization. The staff must make it presentable if we're to receive any visitors of distinction.
It certainly wouldn't do for the Inquisition to appear overly shabby.
We've only just now convinced everyone we are precisely what Thedas requires. The mages are showing great trust in you. They need to feel safe here.
After that battle with Corypheus, how could anyone not feel perfectly safe?
I can't stop dwelling on the day he attacked our camp. Do you know who first leapt to arms? Our workers. They were so proud of our cause. Corypheus simply cut them down. So much screaming after that first blast of fire. So many people turned to ash.
I can't permit bad memories to influence the job we must do.
A proper example to set for those still alive. Well, before I return to my duties, allow me to congratulate you on your appointment as Inquisitor, my lady. I will now bring diplomatic issues to your attention, and I'm more than happy to help with any situations that arise.
I'm loath to part from such pleasant company. Would you care to walk the castle with me?
Oh, well, a tour then? Let me fetch the steward.
That isn't precisely what I was hoping for.
Well, do let me know if you change your mind. Now I must find someone to prepare the guest quarters. And what else did Lady Forsythia say?
That she'd rather drown herself than help the Inquisition.
Anything else?
She said she'd have us flogged alive if we allied with her brother.
That does sound like her.
Cheer up, Josie. We at least have her attention.
You always do find the brighter side of things. We are in the midst of cementing an alliance with Lady Forsythia of Nevara, your worship. It's become a somewhat delicate task.
Should I post more guards outside your room?
That should be unnecessary, Inquisitor. I dissuaded her from sending soldiers when she learned we'd struck an accord with a brother she's feuding with. Lady Forsythia simply employs a colorful manner of speech.
You're rather good-natured about threats of death and dismemberment.
They are chiefly bluster, Inquisitor. Most of them. But I confess I do miss my staff from the embassy in Antiva. It was always useful to discuss the day's visitors with them.
I have time, if you'd like to review things with me.
I wouldn't wish to impose.
If it were imposing, I wouldn't have offered.
Well, I admit there are a few potential alliances it would be good to discuss. Right on the parlor floor, in front of everyone at the soiree. Who does such a thing in front of their guests?
The Duke of Kellington, apparently.
And then there's Cole's lurking. It frightens our guests half to death. Lord Jennar still won't respond to our letters. And Sarah, can she not find a single overshirt without mustard stains on it? Then there's Dorian. The man refuses to take anything seriously unless it suits its whim. Not to mention... Oh goodness. Have we been here an hour already?
2.5 hours, I think, but no one's counting.
Oh, dear. I didn't intend to go on for so long. You must think me quite the gossip.
Spending time with such an engaging woman is never unpleasant, Lady Montelier.
Goodness. I'm glad I haven't wasted your day. Well, I've taken up quite enough of your time already. Until next time, Your Worship. Inquisitor, I must speak with you.
What is it?
I must explain something first about the Montelier's fortunes.
I remember you said your family had been forbidden from trading in Orlais.
It's devastated our finances. The Monteliers have, in fact, been in debt for over 100 years.
Dead or no, you appear to be surviving.
That isn't enough. A disaster could wipe us out completely. For generations, we've done everything to keep creditors at bay. Sold our lands to stave off interest. It is infuriating to see my family still reduced to this. I'm to become head of our house. If I sell any more of our land, my family will become destitute. That cannot be my legacy to them.
So you're going to torture yourself over your ancestors' mistakes?
No, but I'd made such progress. I negotiated a chance to reinstate the Monteliers as landed traders in Orlais. We could rebuild with that. But when I dispatched paperwork to Val Royeaux, I've just learned my carriers were murdered. And the documents restoring my family's trading status destroyed.
Who hates the Monteliers enough to do that?
Leliana made inquiries that bore success. Comte Boisvert, a nobleman in Val Royeaux, claims to know who killed my messengers. He has a request that you come when I meet him, so he's seen publicly conferring with you.
I hope the Comte isn't making up information just to be seen with me.
I will take full responsibility if that's the case, Inquisitor. I must know who killed my couriers just to harm my family. Inquisitor, is it true? Is the mark on your hand magic cast by Corypheus?
Corypheus claimed it's a spell gone wrong.
I wanted to think it was a blessing. A sign the Maker was returning to his creation. How credulous of me.
The anchor's nothing more special than a misfired spell.
At least you had the good fortune to take it from Corypheus. Does it hurt? The anchor, that is.
Only when I laugh.
Very good, Inquisitor.
Do you know where this noble wanted to meet us?
I do. The Comte Boisvert's invited us to his mansion, not far from here. I pray he clears up the deaths of my messengers, as promised.
Lead the way.
Welcome, my friend.
Thank you for seeing us, Comte Boisvert.
The honor is mine. Please, sit. It's an honor to assist two such distinguished guests.
I hope helping us doesn't endanger you.
Hardly. Even a brush with someone as well known as yourself can become a great asset in Valroyo. Giving you the identity of those who murdered Lady Montily's messengers seemed the least I could do. Have you heard of the House of Repose?
The Assassin's League?
My contacts obtained a copy of a document in the archives. Contract for a life.
The House of Repose is hereby sworn to eliminate anyone attempting to overturn the Montiliers' trading exile in Orlais.
Overly complicated assassination plots are part of Orlesian politics, I take it.
They're all too common, I'm afraid.
The contract was signed by a noble family. The Du Paraquets.
But the Du Paraquets died out as a noble line over 60 years ago.
Indeed. But the contract was signed 109 years ago.
How can a family try to kill you after they died out?
The Du Paraquets were our rivals. They drove the Montiliers from Valroyo. This contract was drawn up over 100 years ago, but it wasn't invoked until I tried to overturn my family's exile.
Unpleasant though it may be, the House of Repose is merely fulfilling its contractual duties.
I assume you have a thought or two on this, Josephine?
The Du Paraquets still have descendants under the common branch. If we elevate them to nobility, a Du Paraquet could annul the contract on my life.
That will take time, Lady Montilier. Time during which the House of Repose will be obliged to hunt you.
Will they now? You are exceedingly well informed. You're not to have said you'd heard rumors, at best.
A bit of subterfuge. This contract on your life is an ugly business. One the House of Repose deeply regrets. But this is Orlais. Even an assassin's word is his bond.
I thought you were remarkably well informed about a secret assassin's guild.
We are hardly secret, my dear Inquisitor, just normally much more reclusive. The contract on Lady Montilier's life is so unusual, we felt the courtesy of an explanation was in order.
It is appreciated, monsieur.
Your idea to seek out the Du Paraquet to revoke our orders is an interesting one. I wish you luck. I did not come to shed blood today, Inquisitor. Only to speak. Might I pass?
Not on your life.
As you wish.
I'm so sorry, Inquisitor. I never thought my family's trading status would trap us in an assassin's plot.
Between our soldiers and spies, Sky holds safer than anywhere else in Thedas.
Yet the problem persists. I've tracked down the last Du Paraquets. If they become gentry, they can annul the contract on my life. We'll require a noble from Valroyo to sponsor them, a judge to provide documents, a minister to ratify them.
It's so like you to take the longest course of action, even when your life is at stake.
I assume you already know everything about this mess.
There is a faster way, Josephine. The original contract on your life is in the vaults of the House of Repose. If my agents infiltrate it and destroy the original, the assassin will have no obligation to chase you.
Liliana, please. I want no more bloodshed over a personal affair.
Don't be so stubborn, Josie. How long will it take you to gather these favors in Valroyo?
Give me some time to think this over.
I'll post a watch on our ambassador in case the House of Repose visits.
I appreciate it, but I still believe elevating the Du Paraquets will solve this. First, we need to perform some favors in Valroyo. I'd be happy to discuss where we could begin.
I read Liliana's report. Her people infiltrated the League of Assassins, targeting you. The contract on your life has been destroyed. You should be safe now.
And thus we outwit the House of Repose.
Should we have waited for an assassin to sneak through instead?
I've no doubt that the guild was staffed by vicious men and women, Inquisitor. It's simply... Did I ever mention I used to be a bard?
You were a singer.
Bards entertain the Orlesian court. They sing, play music, make charming conversation, and spy. Many young nobles put on a mask and practice playing the game in such a fashion.
I don't imagine many firstborn heirs join those ranks.
No, I was a rather foolish exception. During one particular intrigue, I encountered a bard sent to kill my patron. We fought. Or perhaps scrapped is the better word. Both of us terrified. We were at the top of a steep flight of stairs. The other bard threw a knife, and I pushed him away from me. You can imagine the result.
You've drawn a clear enough picture.
But it was such a waste, Inquisitor. When I took off his mask, I knew him. We'd attended parties together. If I'd stopped to reason, if I'd used my voice instead of scuffling like a common thug, I'll always wonder who that young man would have grown into.
From bard to diplomat is quite a change in direction.
I was headed down that path for some time already. That night merely crystallized it. In all the commotion... forgive me, I don't believe I ever thanked you for helping me with this.
I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Such a gracious woman deserves nothing less.
Such talk. I'm quite overcome.
Should I stop?
Oh, no. I mean, yes. I meant no, I don't... Well, if you meant to draw a blush to my cheeks, you've completely succeeded. Let's return to Skyhold before anyone notices. Leliana wished to speak with you, Inquisitor. It seemed rather urgent. A pleasure.
You and Liliana appear to know each other.
We met... let me think. We met the last few years of my schooling, but we became friends after I became ambassador to Olay. It seems terrifyingly long ago now.
How exactly did you and Liliana reconnect in the Inquisition?
I discovered my family had been overcharging a merchant we traded with for months. Our name carries a great deal of trust in Antiva. I spent weeks arranging a string of favors as suitable recompense. Apparently satisfied, the merchant extended me an invitation to her estate. Leliana greeted me in place of the merchant.
I assume the entire problem was some form of trial.
You assume correctly. Leliana claimed she needed someone of painful integrity for the Inquisition. I accepted, once she finally explained what it was.
Do you remain close?
Yes, but she's grown so much more distant than the outgoing woman I met in Val Royeaux. Leliana used to wander the Orlesian courts, singing the sweetest songs, charming the greatest wits. Now she collects secrets and takes risks that would make empires tremble. I worry, but she will not hear it.
Does Liliana confide in you?
She enjoys revisiting our more disastrous adventures. Leliana used to concoct the most ridiculous plans. Run if you ever see her with a twine ball, a measuring stick, and a handkerchief.
Let's speak later.
Goodbye.
Inquisitor, may I have a word? I notice you've paid Lady Montelier quite a number of compliments.
You've found me out, Spy Master.
An entanglement with our ambassador seems most unwise. I asked Josephine to join the Inquisition because we needed a diplomat. not so she could be toyed with.
Is my own spy master telling me to watch myself?
While it would be pity of me to tamper with your supper over this, she is a very good friend. Josephine's no stranger to courtly intrigue. But love? There she's an innocent. She has no idea you are truly attracted to her. If indeed you are.
Yes. I'm very attracted to Josephine.
Is that so? Whatever is between you, I ask that you treat her with kindness. For her sake, as well as yours.
Yes, yes. You're the stern older sister who will rip me to shreds if I so much as make poor Josephine sniffle.
As long as we're both clear on that. I will not trouble you any further, but I do watch over my friends. Good day, your worship.
Well, Liliana just gave me quite the speech.
What about?
About us.
Oh, she is impossible. Might we discuss this somewhere more private? Leliana said I was an innocent in love?
More or less.
Of all the... I'm quite capable of understanding our association. I've never thought your intentions were overly romantic, Inquisitor. I assure you.
Would my attentions be unwelcome if they were romantic?
What? Oh, no. That is... We've only just... I didn't wish to presume you harbored any tender feelings for me.
I have no objections. Presume away.
But we haven't even known each other a few short months. How can you declare this liking for me after such a brief time together?
Never met anyone whose presence affects me like you do. Perhaps it just means I'm a hopeless romantic, but there you have it.
I would not object to a closer relationship between us, my lady. If that sounds agreeable to you.
I'm actually quite glad Liliana prompted this talk.
I suppose she was right after all. Please don't tell her I said that.
I wouldn't dream of it.
How are you, my lady?
I'm courting the most beautiful woman in the entire castle. That helps a great deal.
Oh my, you flatter me much too much.
Why was Liliana so set against us being together, Josephine?
Think nothing of it. She'd disapprove of anyone I chose to keep serious company with. Back in Valroyo, Leliana was practically my older sister.
So you two never had a romantic history together?
A romantic... You did hear me say Leliana was like a sister to me. She's a most dear friend, and nothing more.
Has our being together set any tongues wagging?
Undoubtedly. A rumor already gave you a dozen suitors the moment you took your title.
Who are these rumors pairing me with?
I can only speak to what was whispered in several courts.
Josephine?
To begin with, Cassandra, Leliana, Cullen, Dorian, Mother Giselle, Enchanter Fiona, Chancellor Roderick, 3 Rs, 2 Counts, and some man named Philip. Honestly, I don't think he even exists.
And I thought we might go somewhere a little more private. For a while.
I have so much to do, but... Oh, let's do. After you. A situation requires your attention, Inquisitor. Noble Chantry loyalists in the city of Jadar are spreading accusations that you're responsible for the Divine's death. They're unusually organized. I recommend we send people to Jadar to deal with the matter.
Let's send some ambassadors to convince Jadar I'm not a monster in disguise.
Excellent. I believe there's much to be gained by winning them over. Yes?
How do you stay so civil with everyone, Josephine?
Bonds of circumstance among the nobility are fickle. Civility is the only constant everyone admires. And I do deplore rudeness in those who know better.
How far do your roots go back to Orlais?
Very far. The Montiliers used to have vast holdings in Val Royaux itself. I wish I could have seen them, especially the ones bearing the family crest. The original crest design was abandoned when we were exiled from the city. I've always wanted to find a copy.
How do you stay so civil with everyone, Josephine?
Bonds of circumstance among the nobility are fickle. Civility is the only constant everyone admires. And I do deplore rudeness in those who know better.
Does it even become a strain, sometimes?
Well, it can be trying. There is no shortage of self-regard among the nobility. The game can be wearying, discouraging, and extremely baneful. But honestly, I'd miss meeting people. I've made the most fascinating friends.
Better than making piles of interesting enemies.
I've had both, sometimes depending on which way the wind has been blowing at the time. But worth it, all in all, I think.
Let's speak later.
Another time. Why, what's this?
You said you wanted to see your original family crest? I found one for you.
I'm astonished. I'd given up hope that any example of the early family crest still existed. It even has our first motto, back from when we had a trading fleet to speak of. From sea to shore, we tame the waves.
We tame the waves?
It means much to have a reminder of that. Thank you. There you are. I've been looking all over for you. I've just received the most terrible news.
What is it?
I'm engaged.
I sense this is complicated. Tell me more.
For the past year, my mother and father have searched Antiva for a match for me. They had no idea you and I had grown so close. Today, I received a letter declaring they've betrothed me to Lord Adorno Cielo Tranto of Antiva. I must deal with this. But until then, we cannot be seen in a compromising situation. I'm so sorry.
I assume your parents have political alliances resting on this engagement.
For once, that is something quite far from my mind. Oh, this is not what I wanted to happen. I barely remember Lord Otranto. I must see to this. And to my other duties. If I can keep my mind on them today at all. Inquisitor, I'm afraid untangling my engagement to Lord Otranto will take some time.
Is there anything I can do?
He is Antivan. The only acceptable thing to do would be to challenge him to a duel for my favor.
That was a joke, wasn't it? Sometimes it's hard to tell with you.
What? Of course it was a joke. The traditional form of dueling among Antiva nobles isn't usually fatal, but there's always a chance of harm. I hardly wish to see you skewered on a sword point for the sake of my honor.
Your worship, may I deliver a message from Lord Adorno Cielo Tranto of Antiva? His lordship accepts your request for a duel for the affection of Lady Montelier. He awaits your pleasure in Val Royeaux.
No protests? No outrage that I'm trying to steal Josephine from him?
Quite the contrary, Inquisitor. Lord Tranto is greatly looking forward to his first duel of the month. May you enjoy safe passage to Val Royeaux, your worship.
I am Lord Otranto of Antiva, rightfully betrothed of Lady Josephine Montelier. Songs of your exploits have spread to my city, Inquisitor. It's humbling to make your acquaintance. It is a pity it will not last longer. Before we duel, I trust you find the weapon to your satisfaction.
Rapiers will do, if you're out of your depth with a more substantial weapon.
Very good. Let us begin. An admirable start, Inquisitor. And I was worried a civilized weapon might puzzle you, Lady Kadash. I'm glad Lady Montelier isn't here, exquisite as I've heard her appearance to be. Cutting you down in front of Josephine would have given a poor first impression of House Otranto to my bride.
Don't worry. I'll be sure to tell Josephine you fought bravely.
I admire your fearlessness, but you cannot hope.
Stop!
Josephine!
Lady Montelier, what a pleasure to...
What are you doing?
Lord Otranto and I are settling our differences about your betrothal.
That's not your decision. The Inquisition needs you. I need you. Yet you threw yourself into danger. Why do this? Why risk everything we've built? Why risk your life?
Because I love you!
You do?
She does?
I wasn't quite sure until I said it, but yes. Yes, I love you.
I love you too.
Well fought.
Lord Otranto.
I'd assumed your liaison with the Inquisitor was an affair of passion or convenience, Lady Montelier. But I'm not fool enough to stand in the way of true affection. The Otrantos regretfully withdraw the terms of our betrothal.
Thank you.
Do not thank me. I know when I'm outmatched.
I can't imagine a better ending. But wouldn't you be impressed by a dueling scar?
My dearest lady, I love you precisely the way you are. Just do kiss me again. I can't stop thinking about your duel in Val Royeaux. Running into the middle of the crowd, the noise, the swords flashing. I was so worried for you, but at the same time, well, it was the most exciting thing I've seen in ages.
You do remember what this Inquisition has been doing, don't you?
Allow me to correct myself. The most exciting thing I have seen that didn't threaten to stop my heart. You know, when I first laid eyes on you back at Haven, I hadn't an inkling we'd become so close.
At least tell me your breath was stolen away by my incredible beauty.
You are too much. These moments seem so dear, especially given your greater calling. Sometimes I must remind myself that I'm required to share you with the rest of the world.
Hang the world. We can survive without the Inquisitor and Josephine now and then.
For now, I very much agree. A pleasure.
Tell me about the Montiliers.
Well, my parents are alive and in good health. They live in our estate in Antiva City. Of my 4 siblings, most attend to the running of the family vineyards. That reminds me, I must ask someone to make sure Yvette attends the spring reception at the palace. My youngest sister has no head for social engagements.
Why are you overseeing your siblings' social lives?
It's Antivan custom. After a certain age, the heir apparent runs the family's estate to prove they're worthy of succession. If you're unfit for the task, the heads of the house, usually one's parents, may decree a new heir.
I imagine there must be give and take between a family heir and their parents.
There is a fair amount of arbitration. Bickering, if one is less polite. But managing the estate is my duty. As much work as it is, I will not shirk it.
Is running your family's estate that important to you?
I'm responsible for their welfare. A Montilier never shuns their familial duty. Taxing, as those duties can sometimes be.
I think you're too finicky to give those responsibilities to the rest of your family.
You don't know them. But Lorien in charge, or Antoine, or Yvette? No, truly. It must be me.
Where were you raised, Josephine?
I was born in Antiva City, but when I turned 15, Mother declared I'd attend finishing school in Val Royeaux. But I bawled into her skirts the day I had to leave.
Did they have to pry your fingers off the door frame as well?
Admittedly, I may have been a trifle sheltered, but my mother only wanted the best for me. Living in Orlais was an education in itself.
What did you learn at this finishing school in Val Royeaux?
Among other things, mathematics, rhetoric, poetry, history, logic, and a great deal of etiquette. I still remember Madame Beventir's switch on my knuckles when I forgot the basic tenets of Nevaran dining customs. For a dowager approaching her 80th year, she had quite the arm.
How did the younger you like Val Royeaux when you arrived?
Have you ever stepped into a new city and felt the buildings couldn't possibly be real? That was Val Royeaux to me. So beautifully foreign, I gaped at its spires for months.
Does Antiva City have nothing that compares to Val Royeaux?
Antiva City is a jewel among the capitals. But I did not appreciate that before I traveled. There are multitudes of places I'd like to see. Saharan, the Anderfels, whatever lies past the Amaranthine Ocean.
Who rules Antiva?
Officially, the Principality of Antiva is governed by His Majesty King Fugelno II. In reality, Antiva's merchant princes rule the country in everything but name. Quite loudly, I might add.
What sort of dealings did you have with these merchant families?
As ambassador, I attended Privy Council meetings in a mediatory capacity. May I just say, one has never heard an argument until they've sat in on 15 princes howling down each other's tariff suggestions.
If you must deal with legislation, at least it's lively.
It's all a part of life in Antiva. Our traditions value passion and romance. A certain exuberance of style.
Are you positive you're Antivan?
I can be most exuberant when it's called for. Just at the right moments, and in a proper fashion. Might we speak of something else?
What's the land like in Antiva?
The settled areas are quite lush. The vineyards run as far as the eye can see in some places. Antiva City, however, perches right up against the Rialto Bay. That's what I miss most. The sea crashing against the maze of the docks.
I have difficulty seeing you wandering around a trading port.
Everyone in Antiva City spends time by the ships, my lady. The finest restaurants and poets all make their habitation by the sea. The waterfronts never still. Lanterns are lit along the promenade no matter what the weather. Oh, and the theater. If we're ever in Antiva City, I must take you there one day.
I suppose you could get us a pair of secluded seats, far from prying eyes.
You'll keep your mind on the show, I should hope. At least until the curtain falls.
Let's speak later.
Another time.
Josephine! Oh, Josephine! Is this her?
Inquisitor, please allow me to present to you my younger sister, Yvette Gabriella Montillier.
There can never be too many Lady Montilliers and Thedas, can there?
Inquisitor, I've heard so much about you, but not as much as I want. Josephine writes, but she never tells me anything. Is it true? You and Josephine are going to elope and move to the Anderfells and join the Grey Wardens and fight Darkspawn?
Yvette!
I want to know.
I already packed our bags, didn't I, darling?
I knew it!
Inquisitor, please give her no more ammunition. I beg you.
This may be my only chance to hear about when Josephine was a girl.
Oh yes, as she told you about when she was 10 and...
Yvette, stop.
Fine. What about when we were climbing the cliffs by the...
No.
She once told the Duke of...
Absolutely not.
She still plays with her doll collection when no one's looking.
Yvette! That's absurd. Absolutely preposterous.
I'll see you later.
Another time.
Is everything all right? You look troubled.
I'm just worn out. Tonight has been very long.
It was a tumultuous evening, but Orlais is safe now. It was worth the struggle. Is there anything I can do? Can I get you anything? A drink, perhaps?
Would you care to dance with me, Lady Josephine?
I would love to, my lady. How bracing to be in the thick of the game again. The last time I was at Alam Shiral was Countess Letienne's wedding. There were a dozen affairs, 5 secret alliances, and a duel between 2 chevaliers over the vintage of an Antivan port. But until the Duchess was unmasked, I've never seen the Winter Palace in shock.
No one can say the evening wasn't memorable.
They've already begun composing songs about it in Val Royale, no doubt. The game's become increasingly insular in the past few years. Corypheus skillfully took advantage. It's disturbing so few people in the Orlesian court were aware of the Duchess's machinations.
You'd think the game's greatest players would spot a murderer in their midst.
As I said, insularity. Familiar rivals become the only ones worth sparring with. But let's not lose sight of victory. Your actions at the ball have secured us allies and favors alike.
My favorite moment of the evening is still our waltz in the garden.
I could have danced with you for hours. We must do it again sometime. We must plan for you to fight one last duel, my darling. This time for all of us. Once you find Corypheus, I suppose we must wait.
Corypheus failed at the temple, lost us at Haven, and couldn't even kill me with an archdemon. My record is phenomenal, if nothing else.
Let's pray it remains so. Please be sure to. I hope that you'll... Maker, I wish you didn't have to go.
You know how much I'd rather stay here, if I could.
It does not seem to make things easier. I must attend to some tasks before you draw out our enemy. Do go before I begin to cry. Ugh, I should never have hired new caterers so late.
Leave it be, Josie. Everything's fine.
It is not! I'm so sorry, nothing's quite as it should be. Do you like the drinks? I'm not sure about them.
If I told you the port was a little dry, would you burst into flame?
You're joking, yes? Please tell me you're joking. What a disaster. Somebody was late, the invitations to our guests barely went out at all, and... It was so wonderful to prepare for a small banquet instead of the end of the world. Do you know what everyone is talking about tonight, from commoners to kings? Us. Thedas is discussing the success of the Inquisition.
Are you descending into open boasting, Lady Montelier?
I can scarcely think of a better time. Truly, we will never forget those we lost. But for tonight, to victory.
May I join you?
I wanted to catch you. The celebrations appear to be winding down with the sunrise. I've never witnessed such a lovely sight.
I am standing right here, you know.
Shall I compare you to the sun?
Go on. Write a few couplets.
I could not do you justice. It's been good to have this celebration, free of what the future holds. Whatever awaits us, my lady, I know only one thing. I would never have you face it alone.